Welcome to Educate, Inform, and Challenge. My name is Teresa MacLennan, and I'm the Executive Director of the Women and Children's Shelter of Barrie. We are so honored that you have joined us today for this really insightful conversation that we are going to have. The goal of our program is to talk about the lives and experience, in particular of women, the gender-based violence that women have experienced, women in leadership, gender equity, the role of women where decisions are being made. And so we're going to dive into those topics, and we're just really thankful that you're coming along this journey with us. Before we begin, we want to thank our Indigenous community for allowing us to be in this space, allowing us to share and to have this room, to have these conversations. We thank you so much for allowing us to be here with you. I am thrilled today to welcome my guest, Shelly Skinner, and we're going to have some really great conversations today that I really hope is going to challenge our thinking and challenge us to think about how we can, as citizens of Barrie and the world, be better people. Welcome, Shelly. So glad that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Teresa. I am excited, as always, to share space with like-minded people who are looking to, make some real sustainable change in our communities.
So, Shelly, I know that you wear a multitude of hats and you play so many different roles personally, professionally in the life of our community. Can you share with our viewers some of those multiple hats that you wear?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am a mother first, a parent of two beautiful kids. Actually, they're kind of turning into teenagers very soon. My oldest is 14, and my youngest is 12 this month. So, it's been quite the ride as a parent, navigating parenthood during COVID. I think that is a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of people to be in a pandemic and to have to experience parenting and navigating this space. So that's where I would say I am first and foremost a parent. I am also a partner and a wife to my incredible, I like to call him my husband, Trace. And, we are just coming up to a year of being together in our commitment to each other. We had a whole wedding plan. We had a whole wedding plan for last year during COVID, but of course, with things, we still had something special for us and our family. If we think about members of the 2S LGBTQ+ community for the longest time, up until probably the last 20 odd years, that was how they committed to each other. So it wasn't necessarily we weren't allowed in the church, we weren't allowed legally. So to us, that is a binding commitment, just like anybody else's. So I am a partner and a wife. I am also the founder and president of UpLift Black. And that is one of my newer roles. But a role that I think I've been working towards my entire life. I really feel like everything that I am passionate about and all the ways I truly want to see the world moving forward is wrapped up in UpLift Black. And so I'm excited to kind of share a little bit more about that as well in this interview today.
So let's dive right in there, because I really do want this to be a platform where we can educate our community about that work that you're doing. And then also, to talk about how we can be allies and how we can work together in the goals that you have for UpLift Black. So what's your mandate? What is the work that you're doing with UpLift Black?
Yeah, our mission and vision is to see, is to use all of the opportunities we have, working with our allies and working with community members to help uplift the Black community. And we understand that Black is very, very intersectional. When we say that, we recognize anybody from the African diaspora, from the Caribbean diaspora. We do include Indigenous people, in that conversation. So our work is anchored in 2S LGBTQ+ inclusivity, and our work is with the mission to have eventually achieve racial equity through a conscious and uplifted community. Right? It's a community that is very aware of their people, of their neighbors and they care for them, and that we're moving beyond empathy to actual strategy on how to make some real changes. And so that's what UpLift Black is here to help support that movement.
I really love, just to kind of tag on what you just said, because, we can all have empathy and we can all build our understanding. But if it does not relate to action in some way, I feel like it's almost lost.
Absolutely.
Because what are we truly doing with the thoughts and feelings that we have about ourselves, our community, and others if we are not acting on those things? So tell us, why is the work you're doing important? Why is it needed?
Yeah. Well, it's very similar to the work that the Women and Children Shelter is doing. It's to, eradicate biases and discrimination and stop gatekeeping, and allow people with different experiences to have a seat at the table. Right. And not just opening up those spaces, but truly valuing them. So we've opened up these spaces. We've brought in members with, who are new immigrants, who speak different languages, who have, different lived experiences based on gender and sexuality, and then, have different experiences, but based on the lived skin that they're in. And now that they're there, what do? We have to value them. We have to value what they have to say. We have to rethink what we've always known as, this idea that things are only allowed to be done one certain way. And we know as we get more educated that's wrapped up in patriarchal, views and mindsets, and misogyny and Eurocentric Catholic, ways of being. That's all of our whole society has been built that way, from our institutions, like our education systems, from the systems that are supposed to take care of us, like the medical systems, and anybody who doesn't fit a certain box is considered, unvalued or unworthy, or not worth, just not worthy. And I want to change that story and mindset, because it is very, very outdated thinking, and it is not the way that we need to move forward as compassionate human beings. And I think that having access to so much information, which is the beautiful thing about the World Wide Web, and and having these opportunities to connect with people from across the world, is now we don't have any more excuses, right? We know better, and when you know better, you're supposed to do better, right? And that's what I'm challenging everybody to do, right? Is to learn, and once you've learned, now what? Now what are you going to do to change things?
What comes to my mind is that statement I hear quite a bit now, which is nothing about me.
Nothing without us.
Right?
Yeah, without me.
Yeah, nothing about me without me, because I think, as a women children's shelter, right? Mm-hmm. It would be very easy for us to decide what services need to look like for women.
Yeah.
But why aren't we asking women what the services need to look like and what they want and what they need, right?
Absolutely.
And so it just really resonates with me. And what also resonates with me when you're speaking is that, I want our community to know that myself as a white woman, I am really aware of and have been on a real journey of exploring the privilege that I hold and that I carry, mm-hmm. and wanting to really be aware of that and acknowledge it, but also how do I create something different, right? What mm-hmm. voice can I use to create balance and to offer balance and invite other voices and people to the table? And so I just, I think it is important for us who have had this privilege and unjustified to be given to us, mm-hmm. that we do something good and beneficial and in partnership, right? And balance that out. And so I know that we are going to dive into some really great things mm-hmm. in our conversation today, Shelly, and it's going to be really educational and challenging for all of us. And that is the purpose of our program. So I know we're going to be heading into a break in a little bit of time, but when we come back, and you can start to talk about it and we can circle back, but I really want to talk about, from a historical, cultural, personal perspective, the experience for Black folk in our community. Certainly we can talk about around the world and our globe, but even right here in our city of Barrie, we have so much work to do. And so if you want to start there, and we'll circle back to it, but please do so. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I definitely think that the conversation needs to be a little more focused in areas outside of urban centers. And that's kind of where our focus is with UpLift Black. So when we come back after the break, let's talk a little bit about what that experience, the reality of that experience is like for people who live out here.
Yeah. Okay, great. So this is probably a really good place for us to take a short break, and please stay with us. And, let's just really be mindful of what we're going to learn today as we continue our conversation with Shelly. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Educate, Inform, and Challenge. We are having a great discussion today with my friend Shelly Skinner, who is the president and founder of UpLift Black. And we're learning a great deal about the work that she's doing, but we really want to dive into and have conversation and learning about the experiences of Black folk in our community. And so that's where we're gonna pick back up into our conversation. So Shelly, if you could talk to us about what does that experience look and feel like? And I know it's a huge question. It's a huge question.
It is. It's multi-layered, but at the same time, I mean, I can only ever really speak to my experiences, and I can speak in a general sense of as an educator for anti-Black racism. I can speak from that. But in particular, let's talk about Simcoe County and moving here from the GTA. Lucky enough that I was born and raised in Toronto, and then moved out to Brampton. Very diverse communities. Never really struggled with my my racial identity or any of that. It was more of my sexual identity that caused me a lot of a lot of pain as I was getting older, trying to figure and navigate those systems, and those systems were usually really rooted in heteronormativity. So I was an outcasted. In the Black community, there was a lot of struggle there as if we go and we look at some of the most dangerous places to be a member of the 2S LGBTQ plus community, majority of those countries are countries from the African diaspora. So homophobia and transphobia is really, really prevalent in our communities. So I kind of ran away to find myself as a queer woman. And in running away, I ran into some incredible people in my life. Moving to the city in Toronto, moving to Montreal, having access to being in a university setting and working with people who were very educated and very open-minded. I was able to be part of the Concordia Queer Union. I was able to work with the Concordia University on their HIV/AIDS public lecture series. So I was really rooted in queer activism at that time. And I think at that time, like I had to make a choice. Like I needed to be a queer woman or a Black woman. And to me, it was that queer identity is what is what resonated with me and what I needed to have in terms of my group. And so it really wasn't until I moved to Simcoe County that I was reminded that I was Black. And I'll, like knock in the face reminded that I was a Black person too, because, being in very diverse spaces, we were, the only way we were different as a group were as queer people, whereas people a part of that community. But when I came here, I was isolated as a queer person and as a Black person. And that was the struggle. But I came here because I had not much of a choice. As I was ending a long-term relationship, I was a single mom with 2 kids, and I was trying to look for places that I could afford in the GTA, and I was priced out. So this was back in 2012, and a friend had started sending me some ads for some townhouses and apartments up in Barrie that were a lot more within my price point. And I remember thinking, okay, I had grown up hearing that, Barrie was a pretty racist town, and I've lived quite a bit of life since then. I don't know how I'm going to come back from living in downtown Montreal to Barrie, Ontario. It was going to be quite the culture shock, and it was. What was more shocking was it wasn't just in the faces; it was in the attitude. It was in the way I was viewed, right? Not that I was just the only person who looked like me. So the struggles were trying to kind of find a way to live, take care of my children, and still be me at the same time. And that was a challenge. And in many different spaces, there was microaggressions and there were macroaggressions. Like there was everything from being called the N-word, and to constantly, being questioned about, my hair, about, ideas that I'm not really from here, talking about my body in a way as if they thought they had autonomy over my body in any way. So all of those things started to really kind of get to me. And I was in a relationship that I started while I moved it down here with somebody that at the time I thought was, pretty open, and only to find out whenever we got into a fight that the first thing they did was call me the N-word. And that would crush me. I mean, when you think about, loving somebody and then choosing one of the worst things they could ever call you, in the midst of anger, it made me recognize that there was, I didn't know if I was ever going to truly feel safe with anybody. And that relationship was not safe, and I had to get out of that relationship. And I was looking at that time. This was back in 2016. I was just started my event business, which was doing some work with the Women and Children Shelter, and I was drastically looking for a place to stay for me and my kids to get out, because I had tried to ask this person to leave and let me and my children stay in our home, and they refused. And I couldn't get rid of them according to the police, as they had rights to be there as well. So I had to leave. So at navigating being a single mom and somebody who had just started a new business as a self-employed individual, I didn't have the type of financial background that would make people feel comfortable about me being the person that could carry the rent. And even though I'm a hustler, I do what I have to do to make sure I can pay my bills. I had 3 part-time jobs. I was doing all kinds of gigs on the side. I would make sure I pay those bills. They wouldn't give me that any chance. And, being a Black person, I mean, majority of the time, I would walk up to the door and people would say they've already rented this space, even though I just spoke with them and they told me to come and they'll meet me. So, there was all kinds of ways that I recognized that I was going to really struggle just to find a safe place for me and my family. And at that time, I was lucky enough to have somebody who advocated for me with some members of the Women and Children Shelter, and they were able to connect me with Redwood Park Communities, and I was able to, to get out. But I mean, that was just also quite the step back for me, as now I had lost the only place that I felt safe was my home. And I was really struggling, obviously, with a lot of pain, mental health, after being in an abusive relationship for so long, feeling very alone as a single parent. So it was just a really, really difficult time. And but I was lucky enough that I did find some incredible support. And with that support, I was able to get into a apartment. Now, this is where things got a little bit more difficult. So now I'm in a place that, finally I'm like, okay, I can feel safe, and I'm excited to be in this place with my children. And I start to try to find ways to get back to who I am, who Shelly is, because I've been in survival mode for so long. And so navigating, networking, trying to build my event business. And at that point, when I realized that was really going to be something that I was going to struggle with, it was applying to jobs and with people who had worked with me in the past, and would always say, excellent job, really excited to work with you. And then when I would come to them and say, hey, I saw that there's a position, I'd love to be interviewed, it was one excuse after another as to why I was great out there, just not in here, just not with us, right? So it was really hurtful, especially in places that I really looked up to. with people in the community that I trusted and valued. I felt like I just wasn't seen. And that I wasn't valued beyond the occasional, yeah, I'll contract you here every once in a while when I feel like I need you, but to give you a permanent space where you can feel like you can rest because you have a steady income coming in, that you can take care of your children, like as a human being, as a woman who's struggling on the planet, let me lend a hand. And I just couldn't find that. It was really difficult. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional.
Yeah.
So it led to, just a constant, battle of just trying to find a way to get by. Not really following any of my passions or dreams, just literally trying to survive. And in those spaces, it was so funny because I would get a little job here, and it would be at a restaurant, and they would tell me that they were hiring me for a bartending position, and then as soon as I got there, they would make sure I was never in the bar area because they didn't want any of the Black girls in the bar area. Or it was people at restaurants not even wanting to sit in my section. So like literally like taking the hand, like money from me and my children, with their discrimination. So, that was, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Shelly, I really, I think I just want to emphasize what you've just said, because I know that there's going to be people listening to this right now who are saying, well, that wasn't me. I didn't do that. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to challenge ourselves and recognize, mm-hmm. yes, that has been us, and be honest with that, because I feel like it is such incredible bravery and truthfulness what you're speaking, and it's such real experiences. And I think that we do it such an injustice by trying to say that that was not your experience and that was not the experience of folks in our community, because it was and still is. Yeah. And I want to make sure that I'm acknowledging and recognizing that, yes, this is the experience and what has been my part in that. And to challenge people who are listening in their minds and saying, no, that's not me. I didn't do that. I wouldn't do that. We need to think about that. We need to think about that long and hard, because we need to listen to your voice and the voices of others who are telling us that, no, this has been our experience, right? And so I kind of wanted to just really put a mark there, because we have to acknowledge our roles in perpetuating what has continued to happen. And there is so much for us to talk about. And I mean, we're at the place where, we've got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah. There's one area that I did want to say, in navigating all of those things, I was also, as a parent, having to advocate for my children. Yes. So like, there was never a break. There was never it was like, go to work, I'm being discriminated against, go to school, go pick up the kids. They're coming in the car and they're telling me about their discriminations and the way they were treated. And it was like a constant, just like, every single time, I turned around, that was what my reality was like. And it led to a place where there was a day that I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. And in that day, I took a bunch of sleeping pills and I said, I wanted to not wake up again. And I don't know what it was, the universe speaking to me that let me hear laughter from my kids in the living room that recognized, holy, what am I doing? Like, where am I? What is going on? This is not what I want. And I immediately phoned some people in my life and said, I need help. And they helped me get to the people that were supposed to help me. And then I'm in that system. And then I'm also navigating anti-Black racism in dealing with psychiatrists and people who are supposed to be helping and caring for me in health. So it was a journey, that's for sure, of just going through all of that led me to UpLift Black. It led me to say, okay, well, guess what? I'm no longer going to ask for it. I'm going to demand it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to demand the change, and I'm going to get together with other members of the community, other Black parents like myself, who are tired, of fighting alone and need a community. With the murder of George Floyd last year, it was a wake-up call to so many, of us moms out there who heard that call, of like we can't stand for this any longer. We need to do something. And in that time, we've been able to create UpLift Black, and we've been able to partner with some incredible community members, organizations, and we're here to stay. We're going to be a staple in the community, just like the Women and Children Shelter of Barrie is. We're going to be working with the Women and Children Shelter to help really, open up that space and make it even more inclusive and more, and more safe and more healthy for all women who need to access that space, right?
Shelly, your words of wisdom are just profound, and I just want you to know that they're having a great impact on myself, and I hope to our viewers as well. And I know we've only got about a minute left, and I feel like there's so much that we could talk about. What words of encouragement or challenge would you give to our viewers who are listening today about, about being an ally, being supportive, being open? Just what challenge us.
I challenge you to pick up the phone and contact UpLift Black and ask how you can be a better ally. Ask how you can support this movement, and engage with us and volunteer with us. And don't be afraid of Black people, and bring us in and recognize that we have so much to offer and so much to share with you. And we can do some incredible things together. We can really, truly achieve all of the things we're trying to achieve when we eradicate anti-Black racism, when we eradicate gender biases, when we eradicate, sexual discrimination. We will achieve these things that we've been working so hard over the years to achieve together.
Shelly, thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you, our community. Please take these words of wisdom and let's learn and think about it. Take care.